This is William Michael of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and in this video I'd like to provide students with some help studying Lesson 4 in the Academy's Latin Grammar 1 course. In the first few lessons we've been studying what's called orthography, which is the art of speaking and writing rightly. Orthography, where we really focus on the letters and their sounds. It's considered the first part of grammar, orthography. So far we've looked at the Latin alphabet. We saw that there are 23 letters in the alphabet. We talked about how it differs from the English alphabet, and we talked about the letters in detail in our first lesson. Then in the second lesson we talked about the first division of letters, which makes vowels. We talked about what vowels are. We talked about how vowels are divided into different groups. And then in the previous lesson, we looked at diphthongs, which are special pairs of vowels that are read together as one sound when we see them in Latin writing. In this lesson, we're going to move on to the second division of letters in Latin, which are consonants. Consonants. Before we get into this, let's just talk about what a consonant is. A vowel is simply a spoken sound. A vowel is a sound that's made with the voice. The word vowel actually comes from vocalis, which means vocal, which comes from vox, which means voice. So when we make a vocal sound, we're making a vowel. So that's what vowels are. Vowels, as far as letters are concerned, vowels are letters that represent vocal sounds. So that's one division, vocal sounds. Consonants, if we look at the word consonant, the word literally means sounding with or making a sound with. They're letters or sounds that cannot be spoken by themselves. There's no way to pronounce consonants unless you join them to a vowel sound. So anytime we seek to pronounce consonants, we have to choose a vowel sound to join them to. That's why they're called consonants. They're letters that cannot be spoken by themselves but must be joined together with vowels. And so when we look at the letters, we divide them into vowels and consonants, and then when we look at the consonants, we can ask, how can these consonant sounds, or consonant letters even, be divided? What characteristics do they have that help us to understand them better? And we find that consonants can be divided in two ways. We can divide them in two different ways. First, as you see here in Article 6, we can divide consonants according to the principal. Notice it says principal. That means main. The principal organs by which they are pronounced. So based on how we actually make the consonant sound, we can group consonants into three different groups, and we'll look at them in a minute. The second way we can divide consonants is according to their prolongation, or the amount of time that they're pronounced with. So this is very much like the division of vowels. We divided vowels by quality and quantity, and this really is the same division. We're dividing consonants by how they're produced, according to the principal organs used to produce them, and then we're organizing them or dividing consonants according to their prolongation, or the amount of time that is used for their pronunciation. So let's look at this first group. How consonants are divided based on the principal organs by which they are pronounced. And I said the word principal is important because we may use more than one organ to make these sounds, but the principal organ is what's used to divide them. So we've got three different groups of consonants: labials, dentals, and gutturals. Labials are consonants that are pronounced primarily or principally with the lips. Dentals are sounds or consonant sounds that are pronounced principally with the teeth. And gutturals are consonants that are pronounced principally with in the throat, in the back of the mouth. And we'll see what these mean when we go through the example. So 3 groups of consonants: labials or lip sounds, dentals or tooth sounds, and gutturals or throat sounds. These are the 3 divisions of consonants. And then next to each of these categories, we see a list of the consonants that belong to each of the categories. So first, let's look at the labials. We see the letter be, 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 and you'll notice that I can't pronounce the sound of this consonant unless I join it to a vowel sound. So I'll say be, and I'll add the e sound afterwards. Be. If you make that sound several times, be, 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 you'll see that that sound is made with your lips. It's a labial sound. The second consonant on this list of labials is pe, pe, pe. And again, we have to combine the consonant with a vowel in order to pronounce it. If you make that sound several times, pe, 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 you'll feel obviously that this sound is made with the lips. So we have these 2 labial sounds, and I'd like you to think about what's the difference of these 2 sounds. Make the sound be, be, and then make the sound pe, pe, and figure out what the difference is. And let me give you a hint. Put your hand on your throat when you make these 2 different sounds. Be, be, pe, pe. Now, what you'll notice is that when you make the be sound, you're using voice when you make that sound. Your vocal cords will be vibrating, and you can feel that in your throat. When you make the pe sound, you might feel your voice vibrating when you make the e vowel sound, but the actual consonant pe doesn't use any voice. So the difference between be and pe is that be is voiced, but pe is not voiced. So pay attention to these sounds, even though they belong to the same group, which is what they have in common. They do have differences that make it necessary for us to have these different consonants. Now to the right, we'll see some more examples. And I wouldn't say there's any reason why they're divided into 2 groups like this, so don't pay much attention to that. But these sounds in parentheses are a little tricky because they look like English sounds we're used to, but they're not pronounced like the English. So for example, here we have the consonant pe and the consonant ha. And when you put them together in English, we might read this like phone, ph, phone, or philosophy. But that's not how they're pronounced in classical languages. The pe and the ha together make the sound pa, pa. So you see it's a combination of the pe, which is pretty quiet, with a breath. Pa, pa, pa. That's the sound here of this 2-letter, 2-consonant sound, which is called a digraph. There are 2 consonants being sounded together. It's sort of like a diphthong of consonants, but it's pronounced pa, pa, pa. Next, we have the consonant f, f, and if you make that sound f, you'll notice that the principal organ is your lips. Not the only organ, because you'll also see that you use your bottom lip and your teeth a little bit, but the principal organ is the lips. And the way that we make the sound of the consonant F is by breathing heavily while we bring our teeth and upper lip together. F, f, f. Next we have the consonantal form of the Latin vowel oo. So remember, we learned that oo can have a consonantal or a vocal sound. When we see this letter here included with the consonants, we have to understand that it's simply the consonantal form of oo. Now, when we read this in Latin words, it produces a consonant sound that's similar to the W in English. So if you think about the word water, water, that's similar to how the U is pronounced with a consonantal sound in Latin. So it's like w, w, w. And you'll notice that to make that consonant sound, you need to bring your lips together. W, w. So it's a labial consonant sound. Lastly, we have the consonant M, M. Very clear that that's a labial. Very clear also that that is a voiced sound. So the question is, what's the difference between B and M? B and M. And the answer is that the B sound is sort of explosive, whereas the M sound is more like a humming sound made with the lips. All of these sounds are made with the lips as the principal organs, and therefore they're called labials. The second group contains the dentals, and these are consonant sounds made with the teeth, or I should say made principally with the teeth. The first sound is de, 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 and if you repeat the sound and concentrate on how you're making that sound, you'll see that that sound is being made principally with your teeth. De, de, de. The second dental sound is te, te, te. And again, you'll see that that sound is being made with the teeth. Now, when we compare these two letters, de and te, we see that the comparison is just like the comparison between be and pe. We said the difference is that be is voiced and pe is not voiced. This is the difference between de and te as well. De is voiced. Te is not voiced. The next sound we have here in parentheses is the digraph te, ha, te, ha. Now, in English, we pronounce this like th in theater, theater, th, theater, or thing. But in Latin, it's not pronounced in that way. It's simply a combination of these two consonant sounds, the t, t, t from the letter te, and the h, the heavy breath from the letter ha. If we put these two sounds together, we make the sound t, 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 as we find in the word Thomas, Thomas. Next we have the consonant L, L, and if you make that sound L, you'll notice that it's made with the teeth and the tongue, but principally with the teeth. L, L, L. We touch our tongue to our teeth to make L, L, L. Next we have the consonant N, N. We use the tongue and the back of our teeth, or you could use your upper teeth or the back of your upper teeth to make the sound N, N, N. The principal organ is the teeth. We then have the sound of the classical ra, ra, ra. Not like the English ra, ra, but ra, ra. And if you make that sound correctly, you'll see that the principal organ used in making that sound, or the organ against which the sound is made, is the teeth. Ra, ra, ra. And lastly, the consonant S is pronounced by bringing the teeth together. S, S. Clearly a dental sound. So that's the labials and dentals, and the last group are the gutturals, or throat sounds. The first sound is the letter ge, 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 and if you simply pronounce that sound, you can feel it back in your throat. Ge, ge, ge. Second, we have the sound ke, ke, ke. Again, a throat sound. Then we have ka, ka, ka. Another throat sound. We then have ku, 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 made in the throat. In parentheses, we have the letters ke and ha. Now, in English, we might read that as cheese or church. But in classical language, that's not how this is pronounced. The two sounds of the classical letters are kept. So we have the k sound of the letter ke, and we have the breath h of the letter ha. We put them together and make k, k, k. This is the sound we have in English chorus, chorus, ch, k. Next we have the consonant ha, which is just breath, and that breath is made back in the throat. And then lastly we have again the consonant n, which is made back in the throat. So we divide the consonants into three different groups: labials, dentals, and gutturals, based on the principal organ by which these sounds are pronounced. Now, the second way we can divide the consonants is by prolongation, and we see that there are two groups. There are semi-vowels and mutes. A semi-vowel, the word semi means half or almost. So these consonants are almost vowels. They're like vowels. They're almost vowels. And then the mutes, the word mute, when you think of the word mute, you normally think of to turn off the voice. And that's what mutes are. Mutes are consonant sounds that completely stop the voice when they're pronounced. They're mutes. So two groups based on the length of time required to pronounce the sounds: semivowels and mutes. Now, among semivowels, we've got a couple different kinds, three different kinds in fact. We've got four consonants that are called liquids. We've got one that's called a breathing sound and one that's called a sibilant. Sibilant. The liquids are L, M, N, and R. These are called the liquids. The letter ha is called a breathing sound, obviously because we use breath to make that sound. And then lastly, the letter S is called a sibilant. Sibilant. So these are the semi-vowels. When these consonants are pronounced, the airflow is not blocked. It's not stopped. And that's why they're called almost vowels. The second group are the mutes, and you see we divide the mutes into three different classes: the pe mutes, the te mutes, and the ka mutes. Pe, te, and ka. The pe mutes begin with pe, obviously, and be, and pe, or fe. These are all based on the sound pe, but have other elements added to them. For example, the letter be is just the letter pe with voice added to it. The digraph pe ha is pronounced pa and is simply the pe with breath added to it. And then the letter f is just another example of breath combined with the lips to make a sound. These are all based on the letter pe and are called the pe mutes. Then we've got the te mutes, te, and these are based on the consonant te. So we have te and de and te. These are the te mutes, all made with the teeth. We have the sound te and then de, which adds voice, and then te, which adds breath. So because de and te are like te with other elements added, voice and breath, they're all listed together under the te mutes. And then the ka mutes or kappa mutes are all guttural sounds. Ka, ka, ku, and ga, the guttural sounds. So we can divide the consonants according to the length of time with which they're pronounced. Semivowels being longer, mutes being very short, very brief. There's a note here that says those on the same line are said to be of the same organs. And then we have a note that says mutes can be further divided, but we're not going to study that, so don't worry about that. Just pay attention to these two divisions, according to the principal organs by which they're pronounced, and according to their prolongation, how long of a time it takes to pronounce them. Semivowels and mutes, the two kinds of consonants according to prolongation. Now let's just finish this because all we're studying in this lesson is Article 6. Let's read these notes. On the same line are said to be of the same order. So we have three different kinds of mutes, and these are said to be three different orders. The aspirates, or consonants produced by breathing, the aspirates were introduced in the latter part of the 2nd century in the transliteration of Greek words. So when Greek came into Latin, they brought these aspirate consonants with them. And we see an example in Latin. We have the word pulcher. Pulcher. Notice it's k and not ch. It's not pulcher, but it's pulcher. Pulcher. And this name is not Gracchus, it's Gracchus. Gracchus. These are the aspirate sounds in classical languages. And then lastly, in note 3, we learn about double consonants. There are two consonants in the Latin alphabet which are actually double consonants. They're made of two consonant sounds. The letter zeta is actually pronounced like dz, dz, dz. And the letter X is pronounced like K and S joined together. X, X, X. So the letters zeta and X are double consonants. They actually represent two consonant sounds together. So that's all for the content of Lesson 4 in Latin Grammar 1. You can see we're studying the consonants and the different divisions of the consonants. Make sure you study this carefully because this will be very important later when we study grammar and we see that there are rules and changes made to words, and if we don't think about pronunciation, we won't understand what the changes are for or why they're made. The reason why the changes take place is for the sake of speaking, for the sake of making it easy to articulate. And so if we think about these different sounds and how they're divided and how they're made, we'll automatically understand the rules for irregular forms or changes in the future of our grammar study. So it's very important, and you should take time to make sure you understand these things and can clearly pronounce every Latin vowel, diphthong, and consonant sound. So I hope that's a helpful guide as you get started in Lesson 4. If you have any questions, post them on the course forum and I'll respond to them. But it's time now for you to study this lesson for yourself and master it and make it your own. And when you're finished, take the assessments in the lesson, and then I'll be waiting for you as we continue this study together. God bless.